to the Black-Owned Media Coalition New Orleans election debate. Uh, just a brief intro. Black-Owned Media Coalition is comprised of Black-owned media. By that, meaning Black people run everything. And the members of the coalition: WBOK radio station, Data News Weekly, Thing 504, the New Orleans Tribune, and the Louisiana Weekly. Today, we are interviewing runoff candidates for all of the elections that will happen on December 11th. We are starting with the sheriff's race. And since we have total 6 runoff elections, we are time limited. We allow each debate to happen to take 45 to 50 minutes. Our panelists are representing Louisiana Weekly, C.C. Campbell Rock Jr. C.C. Campbell Rock, I'm sorry. It's early now. And I am in print, so most of my words are already written. We have Anitra Brown representing the New Orleans Tribune, and illustrious Carrie Jones for Data News Weekly. Let's give the first question to Ms. Anitra Brown.
Thank you. Good morning. My first question it is to Sheriff Martin Hudson. You've said before that you see the need for a mental health facility for inmates in the jail. How do you justify that when there are concerns across the community about the size of New Orleans Parish, the Justice Center, New Orleans?
Well, thank you. I hope that we can talk more about than just the size. First of all, when I was elected, there were 7,500 beds. We have reduced the size of the jail dramatically. We closed every single last one of those buildings, every single last one. And now we have about 1,600 beds. The special needs building, not a project of the Sheriff's Office. It's the City of New Orleans project. City of New Orleans project. And the City of New Orleans, signed an agreement to build it. And they did that because in the conditional use permit that we had for the Orleans Justice Center, it clearly stated that it excluded the acute mentally ill. So they had to come up with a solution for it. It's the city's responsibility under the law to build a good and sufficient jail, and this is the solution. It's 89 beds, includes a medical infirmary for male and female, a mental health clinic, male and female, all in 89 beds. So, it's really not an expansion. It is really just a critical component of the jail, and unfortunately, people have characterized it as an expansion, but that's these people from out of state, up in New York and wherever, and that's really not the truth, and I don't think it's widespread across the community. I think across the community, people want to make sure that those people that come with bipolar, schizophrenia, severe depression, and other mental illnesses also have the opportunity to be treated well, to be managed, and to have an environment where they can improve themselves. So no, it's not any sort of increase. It's just a vital component of what we have to do in order to run the facility properly.
Can I follow up? Okay. So you said that the City of New Orleans is a project of the City of New Orleans. However, those city leaders now seem to be pushing against
it's the City of New Orleans project, and, you know, it's their responsibility to do that. It's their responsibility under
And
the
they
law.
don't fund it.
If they don't fund it, then, you know, then we'll have to do without it. You know, it's actually funded by FEMA. So this is another FEMA replacement project. And if they don't do it by September of 2022, it just won't happen. And then we'll lose, and we'll be worse off. You know, just like if we hadn't taken advantage of the FEMA funding to build the Orleans Justice Center, we'd be worse off, and we would still be in these decrepit, crumbling, out-of-date, dilapidated buildings. So, but make sure you understand that the Sheriff's Office does not have the funds. It's an agreement. The city, under the law, their responsibility. Absolutely, there are models all across the country. You only have to go as far as Dallas County to see what a modern mental health clinic looks like. You know, where you have all clear fronts, where the mental health professional and the security are working side by side. You know, I had someone in the other day who had, he was beating his head against the wall. But once you made eye contact with him, he stopped. And that's just one of the benefits, is to have constant visual contact. You know, another benefit is to have the clinics and the group therapy rooms right there. Another benefit is not to have to restrain someone. You know how difficult it is to restrain someone who's mentally ill. And if you don't have to restrain that person who's mentally ill, then, you know, there's a better rapport between the mental health professional. There's a better rapport between security, and you know, that's what it's all about, helping people become better, and that's why, you know, I think it's important to do it. But you know, that's the model. That's the way it ought to be done. Just like with when we talk about what happens in 21st century corrections. Look, before it used to be linear supervision, intermittent, you know, observation. Now it's direct supervision. So that's the way to do it now.
Ms. Hudson, do you have a response?
Yeah, I do. So currently there are roughly 1,700 beds in the facilities that the sheriff runs, and less than 900 people in those. So we have the space to house people safely. And the retrofit just makes dollars cents. We retrofit that we can have the vision into the cells to make sure people are being kept safe. And we will save on labor costs, which are going to cost another $8 to $9 million per year to run this new facility. And as the sheriff said at his budget hearing, he's down about 100 positions. And so there are not enough people to run the main jail. We're not going to have enough people to run this new facility. And if you build it, they would fill it. People don't understand that there are roughly around between 25 and 50 people per year right now who fit the bill for that new facility. And it's a jail. It's going to be housed, taken care of by jailers and run by a sheriff. It's a jail. So we're expanding the footprint when our community said no. Because if we had listened to the sheriff's original plans, we'd have 6,000 beds right now and less than 900 people in them. But his original building of this main jail facility did not have a clinic. We have to plan appropriately and build appropriately and spend tax dollars appropriately. And we won't be able to build this new jail before the time is up. And then the city will be on the hook for all of that money. So the FEMA is only paying $37 million or so of it, and then the city's on the hook for the rest of it. And that's just you as taxpayers. So we can do better than that. Let's take that, let's retrofit at a substantial savings. Let's bring everybody into the main jail. And now our deputies are being supported because they're in one place and not flung everywhere. And then they're stronger and better when we have less people to run the jail. And then let's take that funding and build a hospital in Algiers. What we know is that FEMA will allow us to change what we do with it as long as it has a public safety permit. So if we build So what if we build a hospital in Algiers, which is part of the city of New Orleans and has no hospital? What if we build that, and a part of that is about substance addiction treatment and mental health treatment, so that the courts can divert people to help, not handcuffs. What if we do that for our community?
I'd like to just respond
The
to
sheriff
that.
got plenty of time
So, I'd like to respond to
and
that.
not, had no time limits on
there-
it.
there are so many- there's so many lies in that
At the
it
end of the
deserves-
questions, you'll have a chance to
Okay.
respond. Next question will be from Xavier University student Kai Davis. That's not Kai? I'm sorry? Tyra. Tyra.
She's the timer.
She's the timer. Okay, is Kai here? Or she's keeping the time then? Okay, good. Kai.
I'm here.
Wait, ask the question,
Kai is asking a question.
right, till she can move in, we'll move her in. Can we get her in the shot?
Okay, Cece, you have your question?
So my question to both candidates is in terms of this, whole mental servicing issue, is it appropriate for the jail to be the place where people receive mental health treatment? Whatever happened to the insanity defense? Why is the Orleans Justice Center being made to take care of mentally ill people? I mean, my premise is that if you're in jail, you're already mentally ill because there's something wrong with you anyway. But why would we put severely mentally ill people in a prison setting? Is that appropriate, and should the city council, from your perspective, rethink that?
I'll answer that. Look, first of all, I'm in total agreement with having mental health facilities around the community, in the community. I was on the forefront and there protesting when Governor Jindal closed the New Orleans Adolescent Hospital. That's important. However, the reality is that people who are alleged to have committed crimes like murder have been arrested and they go to jail and they're mentally ill. Those are the people. We're not talking about taking people that are mentally ill, walking around the streets and bringing them to the Orleans Justice Center. We're talking about people that have alleged to have committed serious crimes and they're remanded by the judge. I'm not arresting them. They're coming into my facility with severe depression, with schizophrenia, with bipolar. So these aren't people that could otherwise be somewhere else. And if there is a secure facility, I'm all for it, but there isn't. This is where people get remanded because they've alleged to have committed a crime. That's what I have to deal with. That's why it's important for us to have the right tools to do it. So this is not about trying to be something that we shouldn't be. And look, as Mr. Jones said, this is all around the country. This isn't, we shouldn't start experimenting here, with something as serious as that. And that's what these people want to do. They want to experiment. They want to use us for a guinea pig. We're looking at best practices. We're looking at models. This is what we ought to be doing, not talking about defunding the police and abolishing the jail. And this other thing about cost. How do we handle the least among us? How do we treat the least among us? And that's what mentally ill people are, the least among us. We're already operating a temporary facility. There's not going to be any additional cost.
1 minute.
You have a response, Ms. Hudson?
Yeah, you're absolutely right that we should treat people better. And our community has a game plan for doing that. But the sheriff has to be part of that game plan, which the sheriff has not been. When you talk about treating the least among us better, well, over 60 people have died under his watch. So are we treating the least among us better? We can definitely do that. We lost some of the facilities at Charity Hospital. Everybody talks about that. We need a game plan for building all of these back and not wasting money on this mental health jail. Let's work on building back the infrastructures to treat people. It's estimated by people outside the jail, because I've never heard data from the sheriff himself, about the percentage of people in jail who have mental health or substance abuse or substance addictions. Mental health diagnoses or substance addictions. I've never seen that, but it's estimated to be about 80%. So if that's the case, we know we need these facilities outside of the jail to house and treat people to keep them from getting into the jail. That's this 21st century thinking. That's the new way of thinking. And that is how our community is voting for progressive change. And that's what I represent.
Mr. Jones, next question? I'm sorry, Kai.
plans on addressing the multiple shootings happening on the high rise and throughout the city?
Well, look, it's clear that violent crime is on the rise, and we have to make sure that we're doing everything to make sure that we keep the community safe. Part of that is to make sure we're arresting those violent criminals and not letting them out on a low bond like my opponent wants to do. You know, we have to keep violent criminals in jail, make sure that they're responsible and accountable for their actions. As sheriff, you know, that's been my commitment to this community. We cannot tolerate having people that would throw lives away, you know, be out on the streets. That's my commitment.
Yeah, if crime is up under the sheriff's watch. So we do have to make that change to make us all safer. And I have a game plan. We're going to treat deputies better. We're going to pay them better. We're going to start at $20 per hour. We're going to train them better. We're going to have fair promotions based on merit. We're going to put some women in leadership positions so that leadership looks like this community. And we're going to support them to be a part of the solution. So we're going to put those who are fully post-trained out on the streets to help. That's what our community has told me all along this campaign trail, especially in the East, the Lower Nine, and Algiers. They want to see more of a presence. So we're going to properly train them to be constitutional, to be out there on the streets, to be a deterrent, and to help to catch folks who are doing things that they shouldn't be doing that hurt our community. Those are the only people who should be in the jail. And by the way, you've never seen me say anything about defund or eliminate the jail. You've never seen that. That's my opponent saying that. If you are a person who is anti-law enforcement, maybe saying that, that's not me. As a police monitor for 17 years, we help our police departments serve our communities better. And that's what I'll do as the sheriff.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I was man, I hate to belabor this because I just have to. I grew up, I worked at Coliseum in DePaul with adolescents, and I have kind of a compassion for the fact that, you know, if you get them out young, they won't go be criminals then. So, based on that, not, you know, I'm not holding on to just mental health, but is there some plan you have for dividing the hard criminals from the not so hard criminals to, you know, because all due respect, when we talk about economics, I'm not talking about economics, I'm talking about community, how to make something happen for these kids to become part of the core criminals. In the black community, that is extremely important. So I don't think economics is what, because economics is a variable. It's going to save money over here, but that kid's going to come bust my mama's door and kill somebody. So my question is there a plan to separate the hardcore criminals from the middle criminals or the other criminals? I don't know exactly how it works, I'm not in the criminal justice system. Do you have some kind of plan to kind of separate that? We talking about mental health, we talking about, you know, one-time offenders or whatever. Is there some kind of plan like that for separation in any other plan?
There absolutely is separation, classification, and that's one of the reasons why this retrofit or renovation or whatever they call it is not a good idea. You know, we need to have the proper space in order to make sure that we don't put victims and predators together, that we don't put hardened criminals in with first-time offenders, you know, and that we make sure that the mentally ill are separate from the people that don't have mental illnesses, as severe mental illness. So yeah, that's what it's about. And when you do that properly, you know, you make sure that you don't have violence and you eliminate. Look, we can talk about where this journey started. I started, you know, 17 years ago. I have a history of accomplishment. You know, don't judge me on where I started. Judge me on how far we've come together. That's what's important. And together, right now, we're in a much better place because we have the separation. To start messing with this building is a bad idea. And although my opponent hasn't said anything about defund the police, everybody and all of the money around her is sure talking about it. So she's just a puppet of them.
Yeah, I put the I in independent police monitor. I fought with this community to make that office independent, and over 70% of you voted for that. Everybody knows my integrity and my honesty are not in question. And nobody who's worked for me has ever been accused or convicted of fraud, especially not my number two people. So my integrity and my honesty are not in question. But to answer your question, the criminal justice system is already moving that way. We voted to flip the bench, we voted to change the DA, and now it's time to switch the sheriff. They all have to be rowing in the same direction. And that is towards having those people in jail who keep us unsafe. And so it's already happening. Most of the people in there right now are being kept for serious violent crimes. And those who need help or treatment are being released, but we've got to follow that up with reentry help and medical and mental health and addiction help. We need to make sure that we take care of all those things. And we know, and the U.S. Bureau of Prisons says this, for every dollar we spend on early childhood development, on education, and on making sure people have housing, food, security, housing and food security, we know that we spend $5 less on building mental health jails and building more facilities. That jail is a little over half full, the main jail. But all of those facilities are under half full. We have the space right now. We don't need to keep building jails. We just need to keep to the path that we're on, which is to treat people and not to lock them up.
Ms. Hudson, I'm going to ask a question, please. Ms. Hudson, aren't we ignoring the elephant in the room in that none of this is possible because of the consent decree? The law has stated that the facility has to be built. Aren't you going to break the law if you don't comply with that?
I'm not. There's a legal process. And by the way, this would be my third consent decree, so I am an expert on it. In fact, I've gone to a couple of Department of Justice conferences about how to make consent decrees better. So the thing I know about consent decrees are that they're living, breathing documents, and they change over time. And so, and there's also a legal process during consent decrees where you get to challenge certain parts of it. And so that's what we're going to do. This community said they don't want it. The only person who does want it is the sheriff, and then, of course, the contractors who contribute to the sheriff. So we have to.
Document, the judge is saying that.
I wasn't finished. I'm not finished. I wasn't finished. And you have a judge, a federal court judge, who cannot order a city to build a jail. The Congress has passed a law about that. So there's a legal process, and we're going to fight that legal process. But we're going to listen to this community, and within 12 months, this judge wants the consent decree to be complied with. And within 12 months, we can do that. It just takes 4 things: supervision, policies and procedures, training, and accountability. Within 12 months, we can do that by consolidating, retrofitting, and bringing this jail into compliance. We don't have to do all that. I think that's going to make the federal judge very happy.
Look, let's set the record straight. Let's get some of these lies off the table. First of all, the police consent agreement started under her watch. It hasn't finished under her watch. So yes, it's still going on. Somebody who's talking about getting rid of the consent decree and complying with it, who's an expert, hasn't been able to do it at the police department despite all of the money that's been thrown at them. More lies. Look, this is about making sure that we serve the community. This isn't a political issue. Mr. Jones, this is a human issue. This is about people that are mentally ill, acutely mentally ill. There has to be a provision for them. But look, aside from all of that, I have a record of community service to this city over 26 years. I've managed people. My opponent hasn't done any of that. Been a monitor. I've been a leader. I have proven leadership. I have done all of this. And I have never refused to work with people. I've always been a worker, a doer.
I'd like
Thank
to
you,
respond
Sheriff.
back.
We're going to take a break real quick, and we'll be right back.
Oh, hello.
Brown.
Thank you. My question is for Susan Hudson. One of the conversations that takes place surrounding the criminal justice system is the burden that incarceration places on families. I want you to talk about, and perhaps easing that burden, such as the cost of phone calls or things like that. I want you to talk about, if elected, will you give any consideration to eliminating or reducing any of the inmate paid fees or fees that are paid by inmates' families? And if so, then how would you make up for the loss of that revenue for the sheriff's office?
Yeah, thank you, Anitra. Yeah, absolutely. As sheriff, I do promise to stop extracting wealth from those who are incarcerated. What we know is that most people incarcerated are living economically on the margin anyways, and so we're just extracting more wealth from their families who are not doing time. So that doesn't make sense to me. So instead, we want to competitively bid telephone services, bring down those costs, and those are the costs for the jail. What we know about recidivism is that it's reduced when people are able to stay in touch with their families. So that is part of what the sheriff should be doing. That is part of our budget. If we competitively bid it, we can have competitive costs on that.
Competitively bid it, we can have competitive costs on that.
Those are little perks
Commissary,
for
the
those
exact
folks who
same
are in
thing.
custody.
Those are
And their
little perks
families
for
like to
those
provide
folks who are in
that for
custody.
them.
And their families
don't
like
wanna
to provide
extract
them
wealth, again,
that for
from
them.
children,
We don't want to extract
wives,
wealth, again, from
those who are out
children,
there trying to keep it
wives,
together
those
while
who are
people
out there trying to
incarcerated.
keep it together
We are
while
gonna
people
eliminate
are
those fees. We're gonna
incarcerated.
put
So
them in the budget, and we're
we
gonna
are going to eliminate those fees. We're going to put them in the budget, and we're going to competitively bid them so that we can bring down the cost. That's super
I wanted to
important.
finish my comments from
And
before, which is
I
about
wanted to
leadership
finish
and
my
consent
comments
decrees.
from
Consent
before,
decrees
which
are all
is about
leaders.
leadership and consent
I was
decrees.
not the leader
Consent
of the
decrees
New
are all
Orleans
about
Police
leaders.
Department. There have been three
I was not the leader of the New
chiefs for
Orleans
that.
Police Department. There have been
Sheriff
three
Guzman was
different
always
chiefs
the
for
leader of
that.
the Orleans
But
Parish Sheriff's
Sheriff
Office.
Guzman
When
was
it
always the
when it
leader
was
of the Orleans
investigated,
Parish Sheriff's
sued,
Office when it
bought
went,
into a
when it was
consent decree.
investigated,
And he says he
sued,
manages
and bought into a
He's
consent decree.
managed his people
And he
into
says
a
he
consent
manages
decree.
people. Well, he's
That's a
managed his
that's a
people
failure.
into a consent decree.
And not only
That's
has
a
he done
that's a
that, we know
failure.
that he was removed
And not only has he
from
done that,
managing
we know
people
that
for
he
4
was
long years by
removed
this federal
from
court
managing
judge
people for
because
4
he
long
couldn't
years
do
by
it
this federal
properly.
court
He
judge
couldn't get them to
because he
comply with
couldn't
the
do it
consent
properly,
decree.
and he
Again, we
couldn't
have to
get them to
switch
comply
sheriffs.
with the consent decree.
Okay.
So-
Again, we have to switch
Sheriff
sheriffs.
question.
Yeah, so-
In responding to some more lies, first of all, we competitively bid all of our services, including the telephone service, including the commissary. Secondly, we provide at no cost a video visitation center with ample amount of video visitation modules in there for the public to come in to stay connected. In addition to that, we also provide free phone calls on a number of occasions, a lot of times for good behavior and for helping us to do our job. We provide that as well as free commissary. Look, you're right about asking about the budget, because when you stop getting funds to pay for services that are needed, and these services are needed because the telephone system is a way to get contraband into the jail. It's also a way to continue criminal activity outside of the jail. So we have to make sure we monitor it. That costs money. How are we going to get that money to fill that hole in the budget is something that, of course, I'm always willing to work with. And I said the other day that, look, if we want to get free phone calls, it's going to take more management on the security side, and it's also going to take more funds on the city council side and the mayor's side to pay for it. Now, look, I have managed, I have led, my opponent has done neither. And she's right. She's been a staffer, monitor, hasn't been responsible for leading anything. I've managed over 4,000 people as the city's chief administrative officer, and now as the sheriff. And look, I said before, don't judge me on where we started. She wants to go all the way back. When we go all the way back, she was a monitor when they got into the consent decree.
Our next question, Cece Campbell.
Okay, so this question is for Sheriff Gusman. Sheriff Gusman, it's very clear that when people are released from custody, they are released with nothing, maybe only the clothes on their backs. What are you doing? What do you propose to do, or if you're already doing something in terms of rehabilitation and preparing people to live on the outside, or re-entry issues? People come out, some of them don't even have underwear, I'm told, let alone any skills to have a job, which then adds to recidivism. So what are you doing in terms of rehabbing and preparing them for re-entry?
So, first of all, we are a jail. We're a pretrial facility. We work with the state on certain programs. And let me tell you some of the stuff that we're doing for reentry. We have a transitional work program which helps people get a job before they're released. They have a job, they're making money, they have enough money to buy everything that they need, and we put that money in the bank for them. And they also help their families while they're working. I hire transitional workers. Some of those people keep their job with us after they're released. Some of my best workers. We also have a number of programs within the sheriff's office. We partner with Goodwill. They have a job readiness program. We partner with the Metropolitan Human Services District on Thinking for Change. We partner with the University of New Orleans. They had a 12-week program where they were working with our residents to help them do entrepreneurship skills, critical thinking. We have a program with Delgado. We have a program with a number of other different agencies, and look, our day reporting center. The day reporting center helps people once they've been released, helps them think for change, not be addicted to the lifestyle, and also get an internship and a job so that they won't reoffend. We have a lot of different programs that are help people. My goal has always been to help people become better when they leave than when they come in. And that's what we need to be focused on. That's a way to reduce recidivism. It's a way to promote public safety, get someone a job before they leave. We also have case managers. The case managers work on discharge planning, helping them with housing, helping them get access to services before they leave.
Ms. Hudson?
Yeah. So there's no data to back any of the things that the sheriff's saying up. So it's not on his website. It's not anywhere. And he hasn't provided any here. I'd love to know what the recidivism rate is. I'd love to know how many people are getting jobs. How much are they getting paid? Things like that. Our community wants to know that we're doing good as the sheriff. I promise the sheriff to be accountable, transparent, and community-led. During this 9 months I've been on this campaign trail, I've been talking with people who are going to provide just those reentry services. But right now what I'm hearing are some of the same things you're hearing from defense counsel, that people are released at 1 o'clock in the morning, no phone, no bus token, no place to go. And as you said, apparently no underwear. We have to do better. And we deserve better than that. And so we're going to work with this amazing community. There are people doing all kinds of reentry work out there. We're going to uplift that community leadership. And we're going to make sure that they have to have measures and that we keep data that you as decision makers and taxpayers get to see. We're going to show that we're actually doing better, not just say it. If you have the data, you always show the data. That data's not, it's just not real. And so we have to do better. And as a leader, I will do that. And I want to clear up something else that happened, because the sheriff said, don't judge me on what happened in the past. He just got this job back in 2020 when the sheriff was put on the sideline by the federal court. So that's been going on quite a while. And so I promise that'll never happen.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Yes, okay.
Ms. Hudson, both the candidates said platforms are good. We thought changing the system, right? Outside of the economics and the things that you say in the economics would be helpful in terms of streamlining, what's your second priority as it relates to running the prison itself?
Yeah, I want to make sure it's run appropriately. I mean, right now, just about, the sheriff's been under consent decree for 8 long years, going into the 9th. And as you heard from the monitor's reports, it's regressing. It's going backwards in compliance. First thing first is we got to comply with this consent decree, get the federal government out of our taxpayers' pockets and out of running the jail, and return the jail to local control. I talked about accountability, transparency, and community leadership. That's what we want to bring. Number one, we have to comply with this consent decree. We have to follow the law. We have to constitutionally keep people safe, those who work there and those who are housed there, and we have to provide the proper medical and mental health care, which has not been happening. I got a report from somebody who works inside this consent decree system and who told me that the provider of medical and mental health services was not keeping proper medical notes about people, so that you didn't know what their prior treatment had been. Well, everybody knows when you go to the doctor, the first thing they ask you is, what have you had done to you in the past? What type of medicines are you taking? So they can keep notes about that and make sure they treat you appropriately going forward. So that is a big component of the consent decree that we have to fix and comply with, and we're going to use providers in our community under a public health model to do that. We want people who have offices outside of the jail to treat people in the jail. It could be UMC, it could be Tulane, it could be LCMC, it could be whoever. But people who are local and who care for us anyways, have them treat us, and then when people leave, they can stay with their doctors. Train our deputies, train our supervisors, make sure the internal jail is safe, which is the other major part of the consent decree. And so make sure people are safe in there. That's what I plan to do. Those are my priorities as the sheriff. And then the money. We're going to be very accountable with that.
Mr. Cushman?
Lies, lies, more lies. Obviously, she doesn't have a clue as to what's going on at the jail. We already have Tulane University Medical School psychiatrists working there. Dr. Jeffrey Rouse is the head of that unit. We've been partnering with them for quite some time. You know, to get into reports that don't exist about medical information not being taken, you know, look, we know that's HIPAA. You know, you can't get into that kind of stuff. This is just, you know, talk with no substance. Look, I have a record of serving this community, a record of accomplishment, a record that speaks for itself, not someone who has just been monitoring situations, but someone who's actually been doing things. So yeah, I'm accountable to the public, and what we're going to do, we're going to continue to make people better. We're going to continue to help people become better, and that's by all of the partnerships that we have, as I mentioned them before, with Delgado, with UNO, with the Metropolitan Human Services District, with making people, help them become better. We're a pretrial facility. Now, our responsibility is to make sure that as long as they're with us, they're continually improving. We have a clean, safe, well-run facility, and we're going to keep it that way.
Okay, it's time for closing statements. Ms. Hudson.
Thank you. I'm Susan Hudson. I'm number 6 on the ballot, and I'm running for Orleans Parish Sheriff on a platform of change. And that platform of change includes the 3 C's of corrections, which are care, custody, and control. True care, custody, and control, not what goes on right now at the jail. We have to flip the script, and we have to switch the sheriff. And we're going to flip that script by, number 1, taking care of those who are in custody.
Sorry, could you say that again?
So we're going to assess them, we're going to treat them, we're going to train them, and make sure they have opportunities when they leave. And we're going to make sure we show you the data on that. We're not just going to say that. We're going to show you data on it. Number 2, we're going to support those who work there. We're going to raise them to $20 per hour to start. We're going to put women in leadership positions to stop all the sexual harassment and sexual assault lawsuits that have been brought against the sheriff over the years. We're going to make sure that they're properly trained and they know how to do their jobs, and we're going to have a fair promotion system that's not based on who you know,
but it's based on how you do your work, and details, which are a service to our community, are going to be fair and open to everyone. So we're going to take care of those who work there. And through number 3, we're going to listen to this community's leadership, and we're going to provide them with the information and the data that they need to see that I'm doing a good job. We don't have any of that right now. What we have right now are consent decrees. Go read them. All that I'm telling you is sitting in that consent decree, including the sheriff being sidelined for 4 years, where he still received his $175,000 to $180,000 a year salary, while we as taxpayers paid $90,000 for somebody else to run the jail. That's a fact. It's sitting right there in the city's records. It's sitting right there in the court's records. We can do better. We deserve better. And the sheriff has a history of not treating women at the jail correctly, hence Netflix series Jailbirds New Orleans and all the lawsuits of his own employees for sexual harassment and sexual assault. And then he sends out a mailer that says, "Who is Susan Hudson?" and it has misogynistic information in it. Well, let me tell you who Susan Hudson is. Susan Hudson is a woman of deep faith, a woman of honesty and integrity, a woman who has supported this community for 11 years. I am the daughter of Ceola Dave and Mary LaVon Hudson, may she rest in peace, whom I brought to this amazing city just before she passed. She got a chance to enjoy New Orleans as well. I'm a sister to 2 brothers and 3 sisters, all of whom are of deep faith, all of whom are a close-knit family. I'm a godmother to 2 boys, and I am a friend, neighbor, and loved one in this community. And let me tell you something else. Who is Susan Hudson? Susan Hudson is the next sheriff of Orleans Parish. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gosnell.
Well, first I want to thank the Black-Owned Media Coalition for hosting this debate. I grew up here, raised here. I was raised by parents who believed in hard work, and that's the way they raised me, and that's the way I've served this community. I have a record of public services to this community over 26 years, unblemished, and I've served in leadership positions. I'm proud of the work that I've done. I'm proud of how we transformed the sheriff's office from 13 dilapidated buildings into a modern direct supervision facility with over 900 cameras. I'm proud of the work that we've done in implementing body-worn cameras, in making sure that we stayed close to our partners. You know, one of the things that we have, partnership with the Orleans Parish School Board. When I got there, we were doing GED work. Now we have a bona fide school, a school accredited by the Louisiana Department of Education, where we issue diplomas. We have people now that are proud to have that diploma. I'm proud of all the work that I've done. Now, look, we got to move away from the lies, and we have to move towards the truth. You know, I've never treated women poorly. Whatever this misogynistic brochure is about, it wasn't put out by my campaign, probably put out by some who want to try to sabotage our campaign. That's the fact. It ought to be investigated, not done by my campaign at all, and not authorized by my campaign. Put that on the record. And look, I want to make sure that we all are treated fairly. I have women in my top leadership roles. I have women who are working side by side with me to advance and improve the sheriff's office. So again, misinformation. And some people think that the more you lie, some people are going to start thinking it's the truth. That's not the truth. I have an unblemished record of service to this community. I'm going to continue to service this community. I'm proud to be the sheriff, and I will be the sheriff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That ends our first debate with the candidates to be the sheriff for the next 4 years. Remember, Saturday, this coming Saturday, December 11th, is when you vote. Please vote. A hopeless people is a voteless people. Thank you. Good luck to both of you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give it down.